Many thanks for joining us on today's edition of the program. Today we'll be looking at socio-economic inequality that lots of Nigerians are actually, facing. But we'll be dwelling more on ensuring equitable distribution of resources, looking at the poverty line and the high rate of unemployment. Also, we cannot have all of this conversation without mentioning the fact that our inflation rate is on a massive high, an all-time high, basically, because it has, hit hit and overshot to the point the projected number that our inflation rate is meant to be at before the end of the year 2020. But what we are saying now, it has even gone way beyond what it was projected to be for the year 2024. But looking at those angles now, we'll be looking at economic inequality, socio-economic inequality, and we'll dwell more on also talk about the challenges, the way forward, and how resources can be distributed. So let me bring you up to speed with the current happenings within Nigeria. Economic inequality in Nigeria has reached an extreme level despite being the largest economy in Africa. I think now we are down to number 4. Given our current economic challenges in Africa now, Nigeria is being ranked as the 4th, most largest economy. The country has an exceeding economy with abundance of human capital and economic potentials to lift millions out of poverty. Like talking about this angles now, more than 112 million people are living below the poverty line in Nigeria. Yet the country's richest man would have spent around $1 million a day for 42 years to exhaust his fortune. Between 1960 and 2005, about $20 trillion was stolen from the treasury by the public office holders. This amount is larger than the GDP of the United States of America as of 2012, which was about 18 trillion dollars. Poverty and inequality in Nigeria are not due to the lack of resources, but the ill use and allocation and misappropriation of such resource are the roots of culture and corruption combined with the political elite out of touch and daily struggles for the average Nigerians. The income gap between the richest and the poorest in Nigeria is large, and income is constricted among the rich. For example, in the year 2003, the poorest, which is the 10% of the population, and only around 1.9% of the country's income, while the richest earn around 10%, and which was around 33.2% inadequate funding. The federal government allocates less than 6% of its budget to education, agriculture, and healthcare. The inadequate funding combined with income inequalities creates a cycle that hampers social cohesiveness and development, as well as also corruption. So one of the major challenges that have been causing socioeconomic inequality in Nigeria has been focused more on corruption, and then a culture of corruption and rent seeking is a root cause of inequality in Nigeria. Many of these countries where these individuals have accumulated their funds through political connections or direct participation in government. And another challenge as well that poses all of this is unlimited access to opportunities. In Nigeria, women in Nigeria have limited access to opportunities with literacy rate of 35% compared to the 55.5% for men, as well as also poverty trap. Those born in poverty in Nigeria are likely to remain in it. Social and economic problems includes income inequality can lead to social and economic problems such as violence, as corruption, where everybody is always looking for what he or she would be able to be putting in his or her tummy. Those are other challenges. And then health outcomes as well. Poor people in Nigeria spend about 9 times more on health costs than the wealthy people. I'm talking about these wealthy persons. If they get sick, they get to fly their families or themselves to abroad so as to get the best of the best that they can be able to get when it has to come to health. So these are mostly the challenges that causes all of these hindrances of resources being cycled among all Nigerians. And this is something that has been alarming, and over the years it has been disturbing. So with this current admission now, all of this has been a trajectory basically, because it's been coming way before now, starting from the military regime down to civilian rulership. That's, starting in the 1999. All of this has been a trajectory now. Facing our current economic situation, it's been also taxing and challenging, given the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his cabinets are always breathing down Nigerians, the people of Nigeria's neck with new taxation. Yes, new taxation has been the order of the day here in Nigeria. High cost of living, no longer news. Fuel subsidy removal has, skyrocketed goods in the markets, skyrocketed. Floating of the naira is making our fiscal deficit increase. Nigerians borrowing, and the federal government as well applying through the Senate to grant permission for more borrowing, while Nigeria is in debt already. So looking at these angles now, it keeps happening that those living below the poverty line are getting poorer by the day, and those that are not living below the poverty line are also getting themselves rich. So it's seeming that the suffering and the hunger is just on one side. Nigerians are crying bitterly, and yet nothing is happening. The president reacted and said, this is the only way out. But from what Nigerians are saying, they say the hunger and the hardship is just being told on one part of the country, and then the others are basically not feeling the heat that others are feeling. In the light of having all of this conversation, the president, the NLC embarked on a strike where they all called for a minimum wage review, which the president obliged to, and now they are giving ultimatum to the 1st of December, because since July that the president passed this and signed it, they've reporting that they are still yet to start receiving the current minimum wage, which is also challenging, which is another different ball game. So it's just a lot going on within the scene, and we would try to do justice to the major talking points, and then see how we're going to extract all of this conversation, and then get a headway on how Nigerians would be able to, relax and get resources, and then the poverty line would be able to, demise. And then there's also a projection by World Bank, which is saying over 133 million Nigerians are currently living in multidimensional poverty. So all of these issues are actually things that is disrupting, and people have argued, if the insecurity continues within the Northeast, that Nigeria come 2025 is actually going to face more challenge. Inflation is going to soar, despite the fact that we're saying we'll be witnessing, analysts and forecasts have been saying come 2025, the inflation is going to decrease. But if the cost of food items doesn't come down, as that's said by the MBS and the Consumer Price Index, it's actually going to be challenging for that to happen. So since we're looking at all these angles of the conversation, we'll have a guest hopefully who will be joining us soon, who would help us extract all of these major talking points. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Midday Discourse. We are looking at socio-economic inequality and, why resources are not actually going around. And it's been projected that, it's been said that over 112 million Nigerians are living below poverty line. And the United Nations have said that over 133 million Nigerians are living in multi-dimensionally poor. And then there are policies being said by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In all fairness to him, it's been a trajectory coming from the previous administration. And he says he inherited a very, very bad economy when he came into office. That it was very dire, and he didn't know that that's how deep that the system has been, that is in terms of poverty. So he's doing all he can to, revamp the economy. But some persons have argued that the first approach to doing all of this was wrong by Mr. President, by one, removing fuel subsidy, and then following it up with new tax laws that has fired up different reactions from different individuals, mostly from the northern region, which have kicked against time and time again. And then the floating of the naira have also been another challenge. And then to soften everything, Mr. President, in the month of July, increased the minimum wage. The increment of minimum wage has been, passed, but yet a lot of Nigerians, civil servants, have reacted to the fact that they've not been able to get these monies. NLC have given a deadline, says by December 1st, they are going to hit the streets if they don't start receiving that. But I have someone here in the studio with me who is a friend, a colleague, and a seasoned journalist, Mr. Michael Deacon, who is going to help us have this conversation. Good afternoon, Mike.
Thank you so much, Samuel.
Yes. So looking at it now, 133 million Nigerians living more dimensionally poor, over 112 million living below poverty line. What's your reactions to these numbers?
Yeah, it's really a known figure when you look at the margin between the upper class, the middle class, and those in the lower class. And we have been having this very deliberate interaction because it looks that the social unrest in the society is really caused by this inequality.
Okay.
The rich are getting richer every day, while the poor are getting poorer every day. And when you look at the inflation in the country already now, it's already projecting that the hardship is real. And who are those that are really feeling the heat of this hardship are the people in the lower class. So the upper class are still, even when the inflation has also affected them, but in a way they also have a balance in the society because they can afford what they want, they can, get what they want and all of that. And then those in the middle class have been pushed, backward. So in a way, the inequality is real. But how do we begin to address this? Yes, everybody cannot be in the upper class. In every society, there's no way everybody can be rich. They said even in Freetown, nothing is absolutely free. So even when we are saying, okay, let's get to share things equally, we cannot have equality. The existence of the world in society has nothing has been equal. Go to the United States, go to the developed countries today, we still have these class divisions in the society. But we can only say that life should be better for the poor. We can only say social amenities should be available for the poor. We can only say that, infrastructure, creating an environment that can encourage entrepreneurship should be there so that the poor people and the lower class people can also, feel sense of belonging. There's no crime being poor. The only problem is that when you have been sophisticated, you don't have access to hospitals, you don't have access to school, you don't have access to water, you don't have access to food and all of that, which is the normal human right of everyone. So we're only projecting that, for instance, in Nigeria, there should be a level of social economic equality where things can be put in place that can also address the issue. We look at over 250 million statistics that we have in terms of our population, growing population, even not certain yet. Yes. We understand that it's still a push factor. How many are rich? How many are in the upper class? How many are in the middle class? And how many are in the lower class? So until we begin to find, solutions to this by also getting our data right, because there's no how I also feel that you can get all of these things done. There's no how you can start empowering people, without getting a proper data. Because if we want to set poorest of the poor of Nigerians, how many? What are the statistics? How many do we know in Anambra? How many do we know in Plateau State? How many do we know? So even when the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is saying, yes, we are trying to tackle poverty in the land and all of that, without statistics, it's also a known fact that none of these things can be well addressed. So we're only projecting that, we should begin to get, get our data right, and also develop a framework that can put economic into, to be stable, so that people can also have access to all of this to make a living. Yeah,
talking about making a living, and we all need basics to, make that living. Looking at previously, it had, looking at the budget now, nothing more than 6% has been able to be allocated for education, healthcare, and agriculture here in the country. So these are the basic things. Those that can't get to fly abroad, that's those that have been complaining, living below poverty line. And like you rightly mentioned about statistics of having over 200 million Nigerians, this is also another angle of the conversation. But what can the government do better in terms of like improving the allocation that goes to education, healthcare, as well as agriculture, given the fact that when those in the upper class get to fall ill, they just book a flight and go abroad. And it has been said by researchers and the reports reaching us that the poor Nigerians, those living below poverty line, tend to spend more, 9 times more than those in the upper class, given the fact that stress, environments where they stay, all of that contributes. So how key is it going to be that the government tends to increase the budget of these sectors that was aforementioned, so as Nigerians will have a little bit of, good care for themselves?
Yeah, health insurance scheme is, we've seen that government effort, but it looks that the effort is not enough because when you still walk up to the hospital, many people are still not having it easy to access these insurance, but there should be an insurance for the poor people. There should be an infrastructural development in the hospital. If you walk into a primary care centers today, you will really be sad because of what you find. You find that hospital has only 1 doctor or sometimes 2 doctors. Hospital does not have lights. Hospital does not have bed. Hospital does not have one thing or the other. Sometimes they even run a test for you and recommend some drugs for you to go and get outside. And then when this person who doesn't really earn a living, get to buy some of these drugs, he or she probably can now resort to an alternative. Or substandard, recommendation of some of those drugs that was given to them. So in a way, you still push back to the fact that you're still pushing a lot of number of people.
Treatment.
And half-baked treatment, and also pushing back these people to be exposed to a health attack. So our health, system should be looked into, where the ratio of doctors to numbers of what we're having is very poor in the country. Our doctors every day are migrating in the name of jackpine. We are also having concern that our nurses as well are also leaving the country. Yes. So Ministry of Health, government should pay attention to the health. If we are having an increase in our budget of 2025, they should look at how much is allocated to health, and not just on the allocation, because the problem of this country has also been about implementation. Let's follow this into the letter. Let's ensure that what is being allocated to each of these ministry or some of the allocation that we have is properly being implemented at the end of the day, so that we can see the difference. We cannot expect to have different trillions of budget every year, and then our infrastructure, our sectors, no sector is really making a very drastic move or impact or improvement. So we should begin to pay attention to our health system. Get the hospitals working, put our doctors' welfareism as a priority so that they can be able to stay back to the country. We do not have good number of them. So the few that we are having want to leave. If they leave, who will take care of this thing? You go to other climes, maybe for instance, the United States, the care system is very much strong. They render care to, the elderly, people that are at age, who were working for government, and now they're retired at home. The government are paying people to be taking care of them. They're even paying them some allowances and giving them under health insurances so they can be able to live. So, but if we're not even talking about people we are talking about the number of people that are still working and then are even contributing to the economy of the nation. So if our hospitals are not well taken care of, then it will not be addressed. Then many of our leaders have to be traveling out of the country to get healthcare. Can we begin to develop our own, and so that everybody can step back and get treatment? By that way, you add value to the country. So it's really a concern.
A big concern, my dear brother. But looking at these angles now, Nigeria belongs to over 300 international communities. And then the latest one now was Nigeria joining the BRICS nation as a partner country. So just 2 days ago, the president was at the G20 summit where he got involved and then also agreed with the fact of the Global Alliance for Poverty and Hunger that was created by the Brazilian president, President Luiz da Silva. So looking at those angles now, in the G20 summit that just happened in Brazil, Rio, the Canadian president, where lots of Nigerians are jacked by into, also, Prime Minister rather, was also at the meeting. And then he was backlashed by his citizens, where they were saying he should have stayed back. There was no need attending those meetings. He should have stayed back and solved the problem he has at home instead of, traveling to go attend meetings. And then year in, year out, we've witnessed Nigerians, either the president himself goes, or he sends the vice president, or he sends the minister of foreign affairs to go represent. Is there a need for Nigerians to belong to all of these countries? Well, there might be need, but why is it that Nigerians now are not really enjoying the benefits of the partnerships with these international communities?
Well, I mean, we've seen that from the United Nations, membership of Nigeria and many, ECOWAS regional also unions, African Union, the AU, and all of that, member of IMF and all of those international organizations, World Bank and the rest. Nigeria have membership in many of these organizations, as you've rightly put. But the problem is that they are really looking at Nigeria, looking at the level of corruption in this country. Corruption has really given us a bad image. They really feel, from what we now get to be paying attention to the sensitivity of the matter, that it looks that they understand that we are not really, utilizing what they give. Sometimes we've seen a lot of loan approval. We've seen grant. Look, let's cast a mind back to 2020 during the COVID-19.
Yes.
We had a lot of support, a lot of grant, a lot of aid, to be able to ravel, to fight COVID that time.
Yes.
But we say all of that was allocated, have the agencies responsible or government come out to say this is what we really had used all of this support that was given to Nigeria for. So the problem has always been that there are always grants given. There are always support. These organizations, these international organizations are always ready. I had, during the Global Morning, we had listened to what the president said on the program. He was making cases of that, Africa and Nigeria is this, is that. And yes, we understand. All of them, they know. Sometimes they have an idea about all of that because they also have, some of the members here in the country as well. So, but the problem is that they are paying attention to how much you are utilizing what they have given previously. They are taking you serious with the level of also showing example. So government over time have failed to close loopholes of corruption in our country, and most of the time we have all of these grants, we have all of this allocation, but it's not probably being used to. So they can only take us serious when they know that all of the allocations and support that have been given to Nigeria and Africa have probably been used. Corruption is really, a menace in Africa. And until leaders of Africa understand that they have to fight corruption to the standstill, there is no other support that will continue to make any difference, because money will come, but it's still going out, differently without investing into the right infrastructure, without using that money to boost productivity, without using that money to also invest in things that, other people will look at. Yes, this is a fantastic, because even you give somebody money and the person does not make use of the money, you will not be encouraged the next time to give. So it's about utilization.
Utilization is actually key, and then the improvement of Nigerian economy is actually very key. But Nigeria is standing as a giant of Africa a few years ago. For over a decade now, we are witnessing decline. And just to bring to your notice now, Brazil is now the leaders, rather South Africa have taken over from Brazil as the leaders of the G20. So maybe come 2025, the next G20 summit might be held in South Africa. But looking at that now, South Africa now is topping the African chart as the leading economy. How can Nigeria get back to the running top from number 4 if there's a chance, with the policies we have on ground?
With leadership, with leadership, you get it wrong with leadership, you get it right with leadership. When you understand that people should be passionate about this country somewhere. Me and you have been doing all of this job. You see that every time we read the stories, we look at the problems in our society, we are bothered because it looks that nothing is really been done. For a good number of years of our independence, we are still struggling with things that ordinary many nations are catching up. If South Africa today are getting both, look at, you just mentioned giant of Africa. We are not giant of Africa with only population. We can't really boast of our economy again because inflation has put us behind. Our infrastructure have also put us behind. We've not been able to capture, with a sense of education, with a sense of infrastructure development and all of that. So there's also time for leaders to also begin to pay attention to it. And Nigeria, very in particular, that we must begin to state governors as well. Because when you look at what government are doing, we have 3 tiers. We have these 3 tiers of government. We have different structures that holds government. Government is just a coming together of all of these organs to form. If we have state government doing their job, if we have local government tackling their job, if we have the National Assembly doing their job, if we have the judiciary doing their job, if we have the executive doing their job, things will begin to be right. When people understand that, yes, it's about the people, not really about, going into, because most of the time, our public offices has always been going in for, to our next world for yourself and all of that. So until we derail from this, from this notion, from this mindset, and begin to look at, the brighter future about what can we do for Nigeria? What can we contribute to the Nigeria? What value can we add to the country? That's when things will begin to put shape. And then we'll get back our pride, because Nigeria is a blessed country. We cannot talk of our resources or what we are blessed with. Let's probably put things right. Let's use, and as you said on the conversation we're having, so that we can be able to have equality, stability. When things are working, when a society, no Nigerian will feel like wants to migrate from the country to go to another man's country to be doing all kinds of menial jobs and all of that, when your country already have a sustainable job. I know it's a problem.
Well, that's the problem. But now, talking about everybody doing their job now, playing their parts, because just like playing football, one person can play against 11 players. That's why it's 11-11, and everybody has to play.
You take a team.
You have to take a team. So basically, governance is a teamwork. So now, talking about governance and being a teamwork, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu passed the motion of local government autonomy. So now with this, do you think it's going to help impact the grassroots? Because basically, the politicians and those in governance get to the grassroots during campaign period. Then afterwards, it's looking as if they've been abandoned. Now, with this local government autonomy, do you think resources would be able to get to those in the grassroots? Because majority of those that are living below poverty line, you see them in the rural communities. Absolutely,
a local government is very paramount, and we've listened to many experts, and from our interviews as well, they have also commended the president, for supporting local government autonomy. But there's one thing to support local government autonomy. The issues just have been raised by Argon is that the local government should be free from state capture. When you look at states are also trying to capture the local government. If you look at the elections, we've monitored all of the elections that have been conducted.
Yes.
The ruling party sweeps all.
Yes.
If
both the councillorship and the local government.
Chairman, if it's 31 local government, they takes all. If it's 20 local government, they takes all. It has been the case in all the states, with no exception. Be it ABGA, Labour Party, PDP, and APC. But we are only saying yes.
But is that the way forward?
Even if you have captured all of this local government, fine. Can you allow these people to be? We have also seen some states already making amendment in their laws that allocation should be with the joint account of the state and the local government, so that they can begin to allocate what comes into the state, to the local government and out of that. That's not the issue. The issue of financial autonomy to local government was to allow local government to have the allocation for themselves and also look at what is priority for them. They construct roads, they build infrastructure, they capitalize, they develop our hospitals and our primary healthcare system within the local government. They also pay attention to how they can boost production in their local government so that people can begin to tap into all of that. As a state government, what you have to do is to support electricity with power, is to support them with road connection of the local government. You should be able to support them. So clearly, the states are not in any way happy about the local government autonomy. And we cannot begin that conversation.
Governors are part of the problem.
The governors are really, really concerned. So entirely, we should be able to understand that this is just an instrument or a structure that is trying to make things work. Because as governors, we've also seen that state government have not really been doing enough. Sometimes they concentrate on the capital city of the state. They put infrastructure in the capital city, abandoning other local government. But if we have over 774 local government in Nigeria, allowing all these people to go back to the grassroots to solve their problem, things will begin to take shape. You can never know a local government that will start productivity in the local government that will boost, the IGR of the state. We can never know a local government that would start an innovation of terrorism that will begin an eyesore of many countries, of many people coming into Nigeria to be going to their particular city or a village in the local government of the state. State government might not be able to do all of this job alone. They should allow the local government autonomy to be by granting them financially. And then the issue of elections. Yes, there's no way we can give our elections, the local government elections, to the state independent board. It looks that they are kind of what I say worse than what we have been talking about election, because when you look at the process, some of them have their forms were just given back through the back doors. Some people could not access the forms and all of that. We do not want to talk about the election because it wasn't a mere election. Sometimes no ballot box as of 2024 for conduct of election. People said they go out to polling unit to vote, they could not find, papers to vote. We are still having issues of about, people running with materials and all of that, and 2024 election. So that wasn't even an election in some places. We can only say that people should begin to, local government, governors and those in state government today should know that the idea is that you may not be in government forever. But can we allow this local government autonomy to be so that the development can get back to the grassroots? At the end of the day, it's because everybody belongs to local government. I belong to a local government, you belong to a local government, everyone belongs to a local government. If all local government are developed, we'll be happy. We'll go back to our villages. Issue of insecurity will be addressed. Issue of unemployment will be tackled. Because the infrastructure there will encourage people to be engaged one way or the other. By that, development comes into the country.
Well, at this point now, lots of persons now, if those full implementation gets to the local government, then people in the local government or anybody, wherever he or she is, wouldn't need to call President Bola Ahmed Tinubu if he doesn't have customers to sell or if he doesn't have lights in his neighborhood. He will just directly call probably the chairman of his local government or the governor. So it has been said lots of times, way before now, that governors have been an issue when it comes to the local government and development of rural areas. But we've seen a handful of governors who have actually, been good and then been able to, have their local governments developed. But looking at our official deficit now, which comes basically from loan and then the floating of naira, has been challenging, and then loans application for infrastructural development has been applied series and times again from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you think all of these loans and the monies coming in are actually going into what they are being borrowed for?
Exactly, it's really been a concern. Over $2.2 billion the president have recently requested from the National Assembly.
Yes.
Looking back at debt services increase. We have not even paid back what we've borrowed. I mean, when Obasanjo was the president, he had gone to the international community to beg, for forgiveness, debt forgiveness. Yes. Can we please allow Nigeria to start afresh again? And the international community had forgiven Nigeria at some point. But from that time to now, we have accumulated all of these,
much more than what
we had. So the concern is that, let's borrow and invest in things that will shape our economy. We are loaning to West to spend without investment. Because when you look at all of these allocations to an increase of our budgeting, allocation to ministries and all of that, we have not really find lasting solutions to all of these allocations. We cannot justify them. So we are only projecting that. There's nothing wrong about borrowing. I mean, I've also interacted with an expert in development bankers who said there's nothing wrong about borrowing. But the intentions about borrowing should be there. What are you borrowing for? Where do you want to invest this borrowing with? How do you intend to channel and implement all of this? When you understand that, it's a basic economic, because you can't get things from on a borrowing to pay back, sometimes with an interest and all of that, with looking at inflation that is hitting the whole global space now, and knowing fully well that you are borrowing to come and spend. We won't do ourselves better. But if we borrow to boost productivity, if we borrow to enhance and develop our infrastructure, if we borrow to look at our energy sector, so that businesses can begin to strive, people will not close their businesses, small entrepreneurs will not find it very difficult to cope, taxation, an increase of VAT will not be a problem. That's when things will begin to work, because everyone will now see, fine, they have developed this sector. Let's channel our energy to see how we can, support the government of the day by being sincere. And government should also be sincere. The sincerity of government should also be there. The citizen can only work looking at the intentions of government because they are sincere and walking the talk, not just about the talking. They're also showing by example, this is the direction we are going to. These are the things we will tend to achieve with this loan.
Yes.
When we get this money, this is what we invested at. And everybody should look at this and all of that. Be transparent and all of that. Everybody will now own it. Nigeria should be owned. Like as a leader, you're not sitting down there to administer all of this. So there should be a level of transparency so Nigeria can own the debt, knowing fully well that we are part and parcel of what we got. And when we try as much as possible, let it show that we have tried. Right. And then we've closed the means of corruption that will hit up some of these allocations. By that's when things can begin to work.
Things have to really work. And if all of these approaches are being taken and being followed through, I think Nigeria is going to be better, and then issues of socio-economic inequality is going to be thrown out the window. So thank you so much, Mike, for joining us on today's edition of
Always a pleasure.
Yes, and then this is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of the program. We're hoping that with all of these key points that have been stated, the governments, we trust they are listening, and we hope to see that implementation of the policies by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which actually looks good on paper, would be fully implemented, and Nigerians would just have something to smile about aside when the Super Eagles win a match, which they've not been doing recently. My name is Samuel Odio. We'll see you again as we talk more issues tomorrow. Bye for now.